The International Monetary Fund has projected that Nigeria's gross domestic debt to gross domestic product ratio will rise to 42% by 2026 from 35.7% in 2021. The IMF said this in October 2021 fiscal monitoring report published on its website. It said the country's gross debt to GDP ratio will increase from 35.7% in 2021 to 36.9% in 2022 and 37.7% in 2023 and 39.1% in 2024 and so on and so forth. According to the report, the gross debt includes overdraft from the Central Bank of Nigeria and liabilities of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. So let's get talking now right away. Mr. Oladende Ariyo is a public affairs analyst. He joins me via the Zoom call now. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Good morning, my brother.
Yeah, good to have you again. If you look at the breakdown of the debt stock, especially the domestic debt profile, the breakdown showed that domestic debt was about 23.7 trillion. That's about 69.92%, while external debt was 15.85 trillion naira, representing 40.08%. And so the DMO boss explained, however, that with the total public debt stock to gross domestic product as at December last year, which is about 22.47%, the nation's debt to GDP ratio will remain within Nigeria's self-imposed limit of 40%. If you look at this report, what do you make of it generally? If you look at the debt stock of Nigeria, especially the domestic debt, how sustainable do you think these figures are?
Well, thank you very much. To start with, all the figures being bandied around, they cannot be substantiated. Our data collection system here is not foolproof and is neither error-proof at all. So to that extent, I found the figures unreliable. However, for us to answer this question and create a conversation, I would simply say that the bulk of the loans that we already have on the table were expended on non-revenue yielding ventures. And we said it then that borrowing money, there are basic things you must follow. Number one, you must be borrowing to finance a project that can pay back itself. Not just pay back itself, you should also be able to pay back the interest element and every associated cost element. But in this case, when you go and borrow to establish a railway line or to go and build a bridge that won't be tolled, you must also know that you are creating further and additional problems. So wherever we are today, it can only get worse, especially when we have not been able to manage our exchange rates in a way that the naira is favored against the dollar and other world currencies. And now, you and I know that we are spending a greater chunk of our national income on debt settlement. So for me, it's still not going to be any better than what is being projected. But the question now is, how are we working to either reduce the debt stock substantially or to increase our capacity, the ability, which of course is nobody is looking at that. And if they are looking at it, we can't feel the impact, and we don't even know. And it's not a national economy should not be run like a personal or private economy. No, it must be open, it must be accountable and transparent. But for now, we're not having that. However, we will manage to see what will happen, especially at the end of this government, because I don't see the government bringing in any new micro or macro policy that will alter anything in our favor. That's my position.
The IMF attributed the increase in the amount of government debt to the pandemic first. Then secondly, of course, other factors within the economy. While other developed economies seems to have recovered, especially from the pandemic, it would seem that emerging markets like Nigeria are still struggling, all right, with the recovery. How true is this statement, and how is Nigeria truly struggling with recovering from this pandemic? Given, of course, the report of GDP in the last 3 quarters, we've done very well. And so what's your take in this? Is it true that Nigeria is struggling with to recover from the pandemic, the impact of the pandemic on the economy?
Well, we were not the only country.
Hello, Mr. Rio.
Hello, can you hear me?
We probably lost connection.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Mr. Rio, can you hear me?
I can hear you loudly. Okay? Can you hear me?
Yes. I bet you were, I mean, you are on the go there. Maybe you need to just say.
Yes, but
yeah.
not the one driving.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
It's okay. Just quickly go ahead to talk to us. I mean, what you think about that statement. Yes, I was asking. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
So I was asking you, do you think Nigeria is struggling with the recovery from the pandemic?
Let me answer straight away. Okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Now, you do not need a prophet or a seer to tell you that Nigeria is not just struggling, it is battling for its life. And this can be seen very clearly from our exchange rates. One, the amount of the percentage of our income that is being expended on interest payments. And of course, the looming cases of unemployment, which is also increasing by the day. Again, our import bill, whether food or other items, they keep rising. Any country that faces these challenges, there is no way they will not struggle. But in other climes, I wouldn't call them senior climes anyway, but they have been able to get a good hold on managing their resources. So COVID or other crises, a lot of them have overcome. But because here, there are no known strategies or game plans that have been introduced that will fast track, recovery and subsequent development and growth in our economy. So we are not just in a tunnel, but if you are in a tunnel, as they say, at the end of the tunnel there is light. But we are in a dungeon. So it's looking extremely hopeless unless something drastic is done to bring about the much needed reprieve, relief, and of course, healing to be followed by growth and development.
If you look at it, Mr. Rio, in the last 3 quarters, the economy has gradually recovered. Of course, in the second quarter, you saw the economy bounce back about around more than 5%. In the third quarter, the economy did well by about 4.03%. And of course, in the last quarter, that was December, the report was out. This year, we saw the economy bounce back again by about 3.9%. Isn't this report a true reflection of what the economy is? Is that what you're saying, or you're saying otherwise?
Thank you very much. I've always said it, that when we talk about economy, it shouldn't only be about figures and statistics. It should be about the people's purchasing power and capability. A situation where inflation has eroded people's income, a situation where people still earn very poor wages, so bad that so many states can still not pay the paltry 30,000 naira minimum wage. That doesn't look good as far as I'm concerned. Just this morning, someone was telling me that cement is over 4,000 naira per bag. Now, in a place like Nigeria, where we have deficiency in accommodation for citizens, how many people can afford to buy cement at that price and build a house? Like that for commercial or for private use. So that's why you begin to see that people have been economically disabled and crippled. So, I can't take that to be an element of growth, but an element of lack of growth and development. And let me also remind you that it's this same period, this second quarter, that the cost of diesel skyrocketed. Not only diesel, bakers who use flour, they also threaten to shut down because the cost of oil that they use in making bread, as well as the cost of wheat has also gone up tremendously. And what brought that about? Insecurity in those places in the north that they plant wheat, and the Russian-Ukraine crisis didn't allow imported wheat to even come in the first place. So as we speak, bakers are going through difficult moments. At the same time, broadcast stations, radio and television, they no longer do 24 hours. Some of them now work for 6, maximum of 12 hours. Why? There is no power from the national source, and they are having to buy diesel at exorbitant price. My office, we have stopped opening on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We go to work only on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. People now work online because we can no longer sustain the cost of putting a generator on every day. So to that extent, there are other industries I can go ahead and begin to mention, but there's no point. We're not going to mention anything from that. With that as it may, we are not doing better. We are not improving. The ability of people to pay for what they want, not luxury now. Basic items will tell you, oh, this economy is improving. And it should affect the man in the Karanamoda, in Ibadan, Oshogbo Abeokuta, or in Olu, without regard to tribe, religion, or other sentiments.
Mr. Olade, let's dwell more on your point on the household spending. I mean, IMF is suggesting that government needs to spend more aggressively to help households and employers weather the economic impact of the pandemic. How significantly do you think this will address the issue, especially of aggressive spending on household spending? So how do you think this will impact on that sector?
You see, when they say we should reflate our economy by government increasing its spending, the question is, the government, does it have the resources to spend, or would they go and borrow more money? China, that has been our greatest or biggest giver of loans, they've taken a walk now because they have seen that all the monies or their investment in Nigeria, they are not generating enough returns for them. Now, in a place where the cost of basic things like sugar, tea, bread, they have gone up. Even if they say they want to reflate the economy by spending, whatever spending that they embark upon must be such that will impact negatively on the GDP and create employment or enhance employment, not just spending money. How well have people fared with conditional cash transfer, with trader money and all those schemes banned by the present government? None of them has had significant impact. I must let you know. Even the so-called school feeding program is been more fury than necessary. So, I mean, how many people get fed all over the country as against the huge figures that we get to read about in paper? So I won't be an apostle of that. If government must spend positively and progressively, they can spend more money to maintain or produce, create new roads, repair roads, improve schools, improve hospitals and all of that. For instance, if we have a normal global standard hospital, our president will have stopped going abroad for medical treatment. And that's costing us a lot of money. So with those situations, I don't see why anybody will not come and tell us, go and start spending money. I think we are stupid people. No, it's not the way to go.
But do you think the government can spend aggressively without borrowing at all? Is that possible?
It is not possible, and I'll tell you why. We sell our crude oil, which we have been shouting against over the years. Let us either establish new refineries if the ones we have can be repaired. And if they can be repaired, let them be repaired. If we had done that, by now, Nigeria ought to have stopped exporting crude oil. We should have been exporting kerosene, diesel, petrol, jet A1. And of course, we will have expanded our petrochemical industries in a way that we will have generated massive employment across the board. That again will impact on our Naira-dollar exchange rate. But what do we have? We will send our oil out, our crude oil out at a lower price, and then we now go back to buy the offshoot, okay, at a higher price. So when you see that, then where is the profit they want to spend? Right now, we are owing over 40 trillion naira, if my figures are right. I'm not in my office. I'll show you specific figures. Okay? And we are spending a higher, a part of our income on loan and debt servicing, leaving us with peanuts for either capital or recurrent expenditure. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are.
Now, talking about household spending, how much pressure or threat do you think increase in domestic debt will put on public sector finances and the country's finances? Let's look at that in a jiffy before we look at other issues.
That there is massive inflation, massive unemployment, loss of jobs. Don't forget that some companies have left our country, Nigeria, for Ghana, some for Benin. Why? The cost of doing business has gone up. Whereas government will tell you, they'll be talking of the ease of doing business. But those who are on the field, they know what they are feeling. And as they say, he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. So no matter how much money anybody thinks is making, you'll be spending more. People have increased rents, right? The cost of feeding has gone up. Think of any basic food item. The prices have gone up. And I give you an example of cement now. Cement is over 4,000 naira, 4,002, 4,1 at different points. So that is inflation. It has eroded whatever added increase, additional salary or any income that people have made. So it gives us a negative position at the end of the day. Unless we attend to the issue of power and energy and, of course, industrialize, we are not going anywhere. Those are the key elements that we should address. Where we are today, national grid has collapsed. Tomorrow it has collapsed. And then they brought in non-spec diesel. Those are congenital problems. And they will always affect our fundamentals.
Okay. I think we just have to leave it there, Mr. Rio Oladende. He's a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
I'm sorry if I've not made you happy. Okay? But I just said
Mr. Oladende, I must say that, of course, you're doing your job as the analyst that you are, and that's why we bring you on the show here. We really want to thank you. So you do not have to make me happy, please.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Because I will see your face.
Well, thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
You too.
All
you
right.
too. Please take care.
Yeah, bye.